Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 24 of the Clappercast. I'm Burke,
And I'm Sean.
and let's get right into it, Sean. We've now had about a week and a half of the regular season, so teams have played about 5 or 6 games. So, a bit more to go off of than our last episode. Teams are kind of showing what they're capable of. So,
Yeah, have some actual sample sizes now.
yeah. And as everyone expected, Colorado and the Oilers are the last teams with just wins. So,
Last undefeated teams.
yeah, that's a better way of saying that.
Yeah, the last teams
Um,
with only wins.
yeah, that's the good way to say it, right?
Also like to call empty net goals no goalie goals.
And then shorthanded is
Yeah,
man
so
down goals.
yeah.
Efficient.
Um, yeah, I mean on that note, like who would have expected Edmonton to be, I mean, they're playing right now as we're recording this. This is on in the background, but who would have expected them to go 5-0-0?
I don't think many people
No.
who would expect James
Um,
Neal to be the goal leader for the NHL.
James Neal probably.
Real deal. Yeah, I mean,
He
definitely
knows he's
showing
the
he's
real
got
deal.
more left in the tank. He's had a weird year last year in Calgary with kind of being bumped out of the top six. So
Yeah,
he's getting a real chance to get back into it, and he's showing that he can play, and
absolutely.
he's being put in the right role in Edmonton.
He does, and he knows how to play that role too. Because we saw like Lucic couldn't fit the role he in that position because he didn't know where to go on the ice. Not to
Mhm.
mention that he had no hands and couldn't score or pass the way that they needed someone to. But Neil knows where he's got to go. He knows how to make the little plays. He's actually got some hands. He can control the puck, and he goes to the front of the net. And that's all that they really need in that position is just to go stand in front of the net and tip shots in, grab the rebound, like keep the play alive. That's what he's
Yeah,
doing, and that's where he's succeeding.
yeah, and he's somebody with a good shot too.
Yes.
So he can do the network, but he can also shoot the puck, and he's looking really good in that in that system.
Yeah, and on the goal leader part too, he managed to save a goal basically in the last game too. But
Nice.
this was an Oilers goal, not a Rangers goal. Because the puck was going in the net and he tipped it into Lundqvist.
So he's now tied his goals from last year, correct?
Yes. Yeah, he has 7 right now. That's what he had last year.
So that's great fuel for the Battle of Alberta Fire.
I think so.
Edmonton's looking like they got a real steal of a deal, no pun intended, for
The
James
real
Neal.
steal.
Yeah, real steal, James Neal. That should be his new nickname.
I think so. I think so. We got to make that happen.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty funny, on NHL.com, the stats leaders, the picture of James Neal has him in his Flames jersey still. So it's pretty
Yes,
funny.
I coincidentally I'm sitting on that page right now and it's still him in the Flames jersey, so
It's pretty
which
funny.
is it's just really funny.
Yeah, I guess worth mentioning too is McDavid and Draisaitl are 1 and 2 for points in the league. It's obviously early, but 5 games in, that's pretty
Well, come on, 5
impressive.
games in, 12 points for McDavid, 11 for Draisaitl. Like they're off to a roaring start, and I mean it's basically what we all expected with Edmonton having the two very good scorers, and not much else beyond that. But on that note too, I mean they have James Neal who's already got 7 goals. Oscar Klefbom already has 7 points, and there's just a little bit more production and offensive chances from the bottom lines this year.
Who have they played so far? They've played the
It was
Flames. No, I haven't played the
Vancouver,
Flames
Los
yet. Yeah,
Angeles, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Devils. And right now they're
yeah,
playing the Blackhawks.
right. So I mean, you could argue that the level of talent that they've faced hasn't been great, but
No.
still, for the Oilers, you would not expect that.
No, because these teams are basically where they are in the standings.
Yeah,
So it's not like they're playing worse teams than them, really. They're playing teams that finish around where they do.
exactly. Yeah, so I think moving
And
forward, they'll be tested a bit harder by some
yes.
stronger teams. But
Yeah, it was 7 of their first 8 games were against non-playoff teams from last year, and then after that it gets back to a more difficult schedule.
but I mean, starting hot can definitely be good for a team. So
Oh, sure. I mean, they've got 10 points already, and that just means they need that many fewer points later on in the season. So when they inevitably go on some random 5 or 6 game losing streak, it's not going to completely throw them out of contention like it would have otherwise if they started normally.
the early October games are super important for the later part of the season because you can't make
Very
them up, right? Like it's just
exactly.
you got to take
Unless
your
you're
wins
St.
when you can get
Louis.
them. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or the Sharks, as I pointed out last episode incorrectly. um,
Yes, the St. Louis Sharks.
the Oilers have been just on fire, which is pretty cool to see. You know, they've kind of been going with a 1A 1B with Mike Smith and uh, Costco, Mikko Koskinen.
I think Mike Smith is pulling away as the primary starter, but it's going to still be 1A, 1B because there's no way Mike Smith's going to play 50, 60 games all year.
Right. So even more fuel for the Battle of Alberta Fire. You know, that goalie switch.
Even
I don't
more,
know
even
if
more.
Talbot has played
Yep.
yet for.
Yeah, he played last night. He gave up a goal in the first
No,
shot.
so it's same old Talbot. Same old
Yep,
Lucic,
yep,
same
and
old
Talbot.
Talbot. It's kind of cool that the
Yep,
Oilers are, on the better side of all of these things because normally that's not the case. Normally they have been
exactly.
kind of the loser or the one getting a little bit less out of the deal to put it more
Yeah.
positive.
Well, like so many of their acquisitions and like free agents and trades have just kind of like they show up in Edmonton and then that's when their career just takes a complete nosedive.
Yeah.
And like that's been a continual trend over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years where guys do that. Any free agent they bring in just sucks immediately.
Hmm.
So it's nice to have some of these guys come in, and even though it's only going to be like a year of success, maybe because they're all kind of getting a bit older, it's still nice to see someone succeeding when they come to Edmonton.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to have at least the semblance of four lines. You know, the Oilers have,
Yes,
as you mentioned, they've had 1A, 1B with McDavid and Draisaitl, but now with someone like Neil who's stepping up, they've got a threat that can be placed on a different line if they need to, right? So you can have some more offense being generated by different guys throughout the lineup. So it's exciting. I mean, even just watching the Chicago game right now, you can see that they have legit four lines. It's not just a blender of guys,
exactly.
playing together and next shift they're with somebody else.
Yeah,
It's they have set lines, which is nice because, with McClellan, they were just jumbling the lines basically all night. So it's pretty nice to watch.
yeah, and to build on that, there's just this different energy on the team this year when you watch them play. That all four lines, all four forward lines, all three defensive lines, they all have this hustle, they all have energy, and they're battling more, they're more energetic, they're playing harder on the puck, forechecking and back checking. And one thing that like you mentioned the Chicago game that I'm noticing is the actual ability to have a 5-man breakout.
Okay.
This is something that they never did before, where they would try to break out of the defensive zone and do anything, and they just lose the puck immediately. It's either some random mispass that goes for an icing, or they dump it in. It just doesn't work. But this year they've got an actual formation or something that's going on where all five guys go up the ice in some sort of unit, and they can get the puck into the offensive zone and get pressure or chances out of it. And they did that multiple times this
Another thing
period.
that I've noticed throughout their games so far is that they're executing on passes a lot better. They're making better choices for their passes. They're not passing in obstructed lanes, and that's on the power play too.
Yes,
They're actually moving the puck around a lot better than they did last year. They're finding the
very
open
much
guy
so.
rather than trying to force a play.
Yeah, and that was a big problem with McDavid and Draisaitl because they had that one set play, finding that seam across the mid slot there to get one of the two on a one timer. That was their only play,
Yeah.
and they're actually doing a little bit better at moving the puck around, using the entire offensive zone. It's like if nothing's showing up on when their puck's on one side, they'll throw behind the net and readjust on the other
Hmm.
side. And there's just a little bit more movement, and it's helping keep the pressure sustained for longer.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch for sure. And then moving to the other team that's undefeated, it's the Colorado Avalanche. So they absolutely spanked the Capitals today. They put up what was it, 4 goals in the first 8 minutes or something. Um,
Something crazy
they
like that.
they ended up letting a few back, but regaining their substantial lead, and they won the game 6-3, I think was the total. Um, Washington had a goal comeback that was offside, which was unfortunate for them. It was a nice beauty by John Carlson. But Colorado looks like they're dynamite so far. I think
They're so energetic.
Cale Makar has like he's got a point in every game so far.
Yeah, he's 6 points in 5 games.
Andre
So,
Burakovsky had back-to-back game-winning goals for them. They were both really nice. And then
and on that note too, he is also a point per game already, or so far still.
right, and then Kadri has been contributing. It took him a little bit of time. I mean, we're only 5 games in, but it took him a few games to get his first goal. But he's been contributing
Yep,
pretty effectively for that team as their second center
he has.
behind McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen.
He has. And something that Colorado is really going to appreciate about Kadri is his faceoffs.
Right.
Right now, it's 5 games in, but 63% on the faceoffs for them. He's their leader of guys who apparently have taken more than one faceoff.
Not too shabby.
Everybody else is under 50%. Rantanen's at 50%, and then Donskoy and Calvert, who are both wingers, are at 100.
Right.
So they clearly have taken like one or two faceoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, they're looking good. They're a fast team. They're I think they're going to be pretty strong this season.
They did well at addressing the depth issues that they had last year, where they kind of relied too much on those 3 offensive players, and then everyone else was just kind of there to make sure they didn't get scored on too badly.
For sure.
They legit have two offensive lines, a solid checking forward line, and a whole bunch of really good defensemen.
Yeah, they got Jostin as 3C too now, so he can develop his game a bit more in that third line role rather than play second center. Or play up with Kerfoot. So yeah, it's they're looking good. I did not like this game today as a Caps fan. No one likes to see their team go down by 3 or 4 within the first half of the first period, but I mean it was still fun to watch as a fan of hockey. I don't know if you have anything else to add about Colorado. I mean, Grubauer's been playing pretty good. Yeah. I can't think of anything else to really add to that.
Yeah, that covers Colorado.
Let's move on to another team that's actually doing pretty surprising. Kind of the Oilers' counterpart, the Buffalo Sabres. They are 5-0-1 so far. So they were right up there, but they did have one OT or a shootout loss. So I mean, everybody expected this, just like the Oilers, right? Everybody expected them to just come out of the gate firing.
So. We totally expected 3 of the top 4 teams in the league to be Edmonton, Buffalo, and Carolina, right? And Anaheim, I think, was there too for a bit.
Yeah, it's surprising.
That was what everyone thought.
How old is he? 24. Olofsson. He's come in as a rookie. I think he was like a 7th round pick or something, or a 4th round pick a few years ago.
7th round in 2014.
Yeah, so Victor Olofsson, he's got I think he's got a 5-game point streak. He's got just a power play goal in basically every game.
Yeah, he does. 5 power play goals in 6 games.
Yeah.
All of his goals are on the power play.
Yeah, so, guy's got a shot. He's been playing with Eichel, top line. Comes in as a bit older of a rookie, it's kind of like that Panarin thing. So he's been fun to watch. I picked him up for my fantasy team, and I like it so far.
For sure. He's going to be giving. I don't think they're going to figure out how to stop him too quickly, because a guy with a shot like that, you don't just stop him.
Right.
Especially on the power play like that, he's just going to keep putting up those goals.
One thing that I noted about Olofsson is that he's actually from Ornsköldsvik, which is the same place that Marcus Naslund and the Sedins are from. I think Peter Forsberg might be from there too. I'm not too certain, but kind of cool that he's from that same place.
So with Buffalo, even though I am surprised that they're doing so well, at the same time, it isn't because of the effect of Ralph Kruger, what I think he can bring to that organization.
Mm-hmm.
In his season with Edmonton, that was the year that in their whole decade of darkness there, that they actually looked the best.
Okay.
That their young players were contributing like beyond what you thought they were going to be able to. That was Yakupov's best season.
Okay.
Everybody was exciting. They were fun. They were just playing well and as a good team. And just something about what Ralph Kruger brings as a leader in that organization is helping a lot of these young players just excel beyond what they could perform under the previous coach. he kind of gives them a little bit more free reign to do a bit more, make the mistakes, but also contribute more in the ways that they can. He plays the players to their strengths a lot.
It was a great move by Jack Eichel to bring that coach in, I think.
I think so, yeah. It's a good thing he got approval from the owner, Jack Eichel, too.
Yeah.
And also very noble of him to step aside as coach Jack Eichel to let Kruger come in.
The Oilers have they're on pretty much a similar trajectory, right? Like they've got a younger core, you would say, right? Like Eichel, McDavid.
Yes.
Michael's got a supporting cast of like Jeff Skinner, um, Rasmus Ristolainen, I guess is one of those big guys for them who might actually be
Eh,
moving out. Um,
yeah, he's
Dahlin,
not looking too good.
I think Ristolainen's
I
actually
put more
doing
Deline.
pretty good so far though this season. Um,
I've heard the trade rumors have died down,
yeah,
which to me signals that he's been doing okay to start the year.
yeah.
But it's hard to negate like 3 years of very questionable play with 5 or 6 games of you're doing all right.
Yeah, yeah, but they've got a lot of young guys on that team, so having a coach that can get something out of those younger guys is super beneficial for them. And you look at who they've played so far. So they've played the Penguins opening night, beat them 3-1. They played the Devils game 2, beat them 7-2. They lost to the Blue Jackets in OT. They beat the Canadians in OT, beat the Panthers in a shootout, and then they shut out the Stars today, 4-0. So, you know, going to overtime or a shootout in 3 of those games is it's kind of like their streak last year where they had, what was it, like 12 games in a row or whatever that they won. A lot of them were going to
Yeah,
OT.
that was up 10 or 12
Um,
games, and
but
yeah, all went
but
to
the fact
OT.
that they shut out the Stars today, that to me shows that
It's
they're
a
a
good
bit
sign.
more of a real deal right now because the Stars they have their own struggles this season. I think they're only yeah, they're 1-5-1, so they're not doing so hot, but they've got a lot of offensive firepower. They've been scoring, they've just been losing games. So Sabres look like they're on it so far. I think they could be a potential surprise.
They could be a bit of a wild card, I think. Granted, they can continue this type of play under the new coach, but they could be a bit of a wild card and surpass expectations.
Yeah, I think they can definitely take advantage of some teams doing a bit poorer than expected, and maybe teams like
Yeah,
the Penguins, which have been decimated by injuries. Um,
and especially like we were talking earlier about the importance of points in these early games. You got a team like the Panthers, who everyone thought was going to be kind of bordering in that wild card spot, but they're not doing too great to start the year. And instead, you've got Buffalo, who's kind of grabbed a whole bunch of these points early on while they can. Well, now they have a little bit more freedom to, lose a few more games later on.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. The trend is kind of seeing those teams that did some pretty big moves in the off season haven't been doing too great. Um, New Jersey for sure has been struggling the most, but Philly's had a bit of a slower start. Islanders, kind of splitting their games. Florida splitting their games as well. San Jose not doing so hot. Dallas not doing so hot.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and all of these teams that you've just mentioned are bottom half of the league.
mhm.
San Jose and Dallas are down in the bottom 7 of the league here.
Yeah, so the teams that had a lot of turnover and new faces coming in, they're going to take some time to get used to playing with each other, and these could be some important games down the road when remember when we lost 5 games in the first 3 weeks of the season? Well, that's hurting us now.
Exactly.
We saw
Exactly.
last year that the West was particularly weak, and some teams were able to take advantage. One of them being the St. Louis Blues. They came from being the worst to being the Stanley Cup champs. So all these
For
games
sure.
matter. Um, I mean, the flip side of that is St. Louis lost a lot of their games, and then we're still able to. But you can't always
Well,
count.
that was also because the West
Yeah,
was
you
weak.
can't always
They
count
were
on
they yeah,
the circumstance being there to come back from that.
yeah.
It's not going to
You
happen.
can't rely on a miracle turnaround basically.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think the Oilers and the Sabres have a good shot of surpassing people's predictions. We'll see if
Yeah.
they can hang on. I'd be excited to see that. because they've been both kind of they've had their little pushes here and there, but they haven't really been able to make it back in for a while. So it'd be kind of exciting.
And regardless of how you feel about the teams, it's just they're fun stories to get behind as
Oh
fans.
yeah, definitely.
When you've got teams that are exciting, playing well, overperforming, you've got these underdog stories that everyone just seems to love to get behind.
Mm.
So whether or not you love or hate the team, they're still okay and they're still fun to
Yep.
watch
Yeah. Buffalo.
when they're rallying around this type of locker room energy.
Buffalo's gonna be fun to watch with Jeff Skinner, Jack Eichel, and Olofsson. There's a lot of firepower there up front, so it's gonna be fun to watch.
I do worry in Buffalo about the one-dimensionalness of their players because now they've got Skinner and Olofsson, who are both basically just power play guys who score. Like that's not a type of player that you have too many of on one team, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We haven't seen too much of Olofsson yet, so we'll see if he's able to be as good 5-on-5. But I mean, even if they can keep their power play hot, that's going to be good for them down the stretch. So I think
Oh,
they got
for
a good
sure.
chance of performing well all season. But it's early; it's pretty early, so we'll have to monitor that. Um, yeah, I mean Dallas. I mentioned that they were 1-5-1. Not not ideal. They're waiting to see the debut of Corey Perry. He started the season on the IR. I don't know when he's set to be back, but that could
Yeah, he
look
busted
different.
his foot, so he's probably out for a month.
Still for a month?
A month from when he got injured.
Okay.
So I'm assuming in the next couple of weeks probably. And then because it's 2 days ago, he's hoping to be back next week.
Okay. That'll be interesting to see how he slots into the
So
lineup and how good he'll be.
they could probably use his pestiness to help get the team into the game. Because if they're having trouble scoring right now, actually, they're less than 2 goals per game, which the team with the firepower that they have is not like something's wrong there. They need a little bit of energy. They need a bit of a boost.
Okay.
Um, Perry can kind of give that with his random pestiness, with his getting under the opponent's skin, go throw a big hit or something. He might be able to give them that boost they need to get their game going, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think them being under 2 goals a game is probably because they got shut out today. I do know they've been
Yes,
able.
technically.
I know when I'm watching the Capitals, they got 1 goal in the last game, but the game before that they put up 4. In overtime, that was that Radulov Sagan winner. Um, so
Right.
they're still capable. That top line is still doing something at least. Hintz has been putting up some goals, which is good.
He's been doing
But
good.
yeah, I
Yep.
mean they got to get it together here because they can only do this for so long before it starts to be an issue. How long do you think it'll be
Yeah.
until they get another bullshit comment from from management? Um,
Well, looking at Tyler Sagan and with 3 points in 7 games, Radulov and Ben with 2 in 7 games, like that's gonna have to come right away here.
this is some horseshit performance. Step it up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like for real though, these guys, yeah, they need to step it up because players of their caliber are not putting up 40 points per season.
yeah, they got some work cut out for them for sure.
Yeah, they have a lot of ground to catch up on, and the Central is once again looking fairly difficult, so it's going to be hard to make that ground up.
One team I want to give some kudos to was the Winnipeg Jets. They've managed to actually do fairly well with a depleted decor. They've managed to win some games actually, which is kind of surprising.
They are lucky in that their offense is countering the almost 4 goals per game they're giving up.
Yeah, they're also lucky that they had 2 games against Pittsburgh. They split those games. The first one they won with their worst defense lineup they've had. But then they got shit kicked by Pittsburgh the next game, 7-2. So
Yeah,
um, it's been shaky, but they've been hanging in there. It's been surprising. I thought they were going to do a lot
it is.
worse.
I feel like they're kind of you kind of see this sometimes, like the first few games after a major injury, where the team rallies together and they do well for a little bit, it's been 7 games now with this defensive lineup, and they're still doing okay, minus that Pittsburgh game, which we'll wait and see if that was the norm or the outlier.
Right.
But even watching them on the ice, they're still playing well enough that they're competitive, and their defense is surprisingly not bad. Pionk is stepping up quite well. Tucker Poolman is getting the credit he probably deserves as a decent mid-level defenseman. He's been overlooked a lot the last few years, just playing behind some big names like that were there before.
Right.
But now he's getting a bit of a spotlight. He's pretty good actually.
Yeah, it's been impressive that they've managed to hold on and win some games. But yeah, like you said, they do have a lot of top end firepower up front. Laine's actually been playing really good.
I was just gonna say, like, you got to give some credit here to Patrick Laine, who is actually has more assists than goals right now, and he's playing a complete game.
It's been fun
so far.
It's been fun to watch. He's definitely stepped it up. He even said that he's going to stop playing video games on the road and stop bringing his console. So, don't know if there was a problem there, but him stopping is good because he was playing like something stupid, like 12 hours a day or something like that. So
Yeah, so I imagine this contract negotiation was a bit of a wake up call for him. As someone who, he's like, what is he? He's like 19, 20, 21, so he's kind of still in that younger age where you don't fully commit to something yet. So this was the first major contract negotiation where his performance and his actions were probably put right out in the open for him and his agent. And maybe he had a bit of a wake up call. Maybe he kind of got a bit of a talking to from people in his life, but he seems to have taken it to heart. So all more credit to him for that.
Yeah, he's been pretty dynamite for them so far. Like you said, kind of playing more of a complete game. He's been passing the puck really well in some high danger areas, and it's been fun to watch.
Absolutely.
Let's get on to another team has been struggling so far. That is New Jersey. So
struggling is putting it lightly.
They had a lot of people hyped up at the beginning of the season because of the moves that they made and some of the new players that they had in the system.
Yeah, and the return of Taylor Hall, the hope for Corey Schneider.
Kind of saw through all that, and both of us expected them to do poorly, and they've exceeded that. They've been doing garbage.
Yeah, it's hard to underwhelm someone who expects you to do poorly, but they've managed to do that so far.
Yeah.
So congrats to them.
Yeah, it hasn't been the ideal start that they were looking for to the season, to put it bluntly.
No.
They looked okay in preseason, but that's never a good gauge for how a team will do throughout the year. They lost their opening night game to the Jets 5-4 in a shootout. They had a 4-0 lead in that game.
And that brings a major trend for them here where they just keep giving up leads. They did it again today, where I think they were up 4-1 or 4-0 against Florida, and they lost 6-4.
Yep.
I think it was 5 unanswered goals for Florida, so 4-1.
I have the list here. So
like that is not a trend. Like, for it to happen 2-3 times in 6 games like that is concerning, to say the least.
Let's just break it down here. So first game, 5-4 shootout. They had a 4-0 lead. They blew it. They lost. Next game, they played the Sabres, who, like we mentioned, came out of the gate pretty hot. They lost 7-2. That's embarrassing. That's not fun. Next game, they got shut out by the Flyers. Carter Hart posted a shutout, 4-0. Next game was against the Oilers. They lost that one in a shootout. They had a 3-2 lead, blew it in the last minute.
With a minute left.
Next game, shutout again by the Bruins. So the Bruins are obviously a good team, but that's 2 shutouts in 3 games. It's not ideal. The next game was tonight. They had a 4-1 lead. They blew it. Panthers won 6-4. So they're 0-4-2. They have a goals for of 13 and a goals against of 29. So
which that's Scary.
Corey Schneider is out, so Mackenzie Blackwood has been filling in. Yeah, they've got
So
they've got 0 power play goals. Gusev is now playing on
and
the
on a
fourth
team with the
line.
offensive firepower that they have, that's absolutely unacceptable after 6 games.
Jack Hughes has no points. Yeah, you think about their power play. They've probably got Taylor Hall, Nico Hischier, Palmieri.
Well, Hall, Simmons, Gusev,
Yeah, Simmons
Hughes,
could be out there.
Hischier.
Subban.
Yeah, Subban's got the bomb from the point they can use, and they still haven't managed to put a goal.
Yeah, they've struggled. They've really struggled. And at what point is that on the coach?
Very soon, if not already.
Because, like I mentioned, Gusev is on the fourth line. He's a top 6 player. He's looked good.
Let's tell that story about how he ended up on the fourth line.
Okay,
Actually,
so Gusev has been, playing around the lineup. He's still a top 6 guy. So Hynes asked him, "Where do you want to play?" He said, "I like playing with Kevin Rooney." Kevin Rooney is the fourth line center. So Hynes is like, "Okay, I'll put you with Kevin Rooney and Jesper Bratt on the fourth line." He has said, "I don't really think I have numbers on my lines. I want to roll my lines, but I don't think it's in the best interest of the team to put Gusev on the fourth line when he doesn't have that skill set. He hasn't looked very good
no,
defensively,
because
so just putting him with the fourth line, yeah, the center might make up for that a little bit, but he's not out there to score at that point. You're not putting him out there.
yeah, you don't use your fourth line for scoring. You use that as like a shutdown, forechecky, gritty checking line. So to go and put a guy who's a skill player on that line, you're doing a disservice to him and your team.
At this point, you have a exceptionally talented forward. You need to be working on building chemistry with the top 6. You don't need to be taking him out of there and putting him on the bottom line. He's got to build his chemistry with some guys, right? Stable line mates.
Exactly.
And splitting them up is dumb. um, yeah, it's not great.
Probably, I imagine probably within the next couple of weeks, we'll start seeing the first couple of coaches, if they're going to be any, start to get fired. I imagine if there's a decent candidate on the market, that Hynes will be one of the first to go.
I would think so. It looks like they're having lots of systems issues. They do have a lot of new players. Simmons, Subban, Gusev, Hughes coming in, but their breakouts sucked. Their power plays sucked. They're just not getting it together here. So I don't know how many more games they'll give Hynes to figure it out, but something's got to happen here.
Yeah, something, stir the pot a little bit, because they do not have anything going for them.
With the additions that they made, they can't justify these results. They need to have something more going on. Whether that's bringing in a different special teams coach or just firing the head coach and bringing somebody else in, try and save the season. I don't know, but it's not a fun time to be a Devils fan for sure. Move on. Florida, I wanted to quickly mention. Panthers have started 2-2-2. As we mentioned, they had that pretty remarkable comeback against the Devils.
Yeah, which is a good sign for them. After starting the year very slowly, we saw in a lot of games where their biggest players, the Huberdeaus and the Trocheks, were not putting up points. They weren't producing. They weren't even finding their way onto the score sheet in any way, even beyond points. So for the team to come together and have a massive comeback win like that is going to be huge for their morale.
Yeah, they've got some work to do. Bobrovsky has looked less than impressive here so far. So in 4 games, he's got a 3.87 goals against average and an 8.82 save percentage. That's not great.
Which, as I mentioned before, that's some ECHL numbers right there.
Yeah.
Actually, that's like old Bobrovsky playoff numbers.
Yeah, I think Reimer and Luongo had better numbers than those in a full season. So,
Yes.
is there anybody else that you wanted to talk about?
I think the only other player I wanted to mention, because he's had an absolutely monster start to the season, is Dougie Hamilton.
Ooh, yeah.
So he's got, quite simply on the score sheet, he's got 8 points in 6 games, leading defenseman in scoring, I think. He either tied or really close with Carlson. With John Carlson, I might specify on that. What I've noticed is that 77% of the goals are for Carolina when he's on the ice.
Wow.
So he's doing an amazing job. Him and his line mates are doing an amazing job at not only preventing goals against, but scoring instead. And specifically versus the New York Islanders in one of their games, the shots for Carolina when he was on the ice was 32, against was 7,
Wow.
and they had a 92% expected goals for.
Wow. Yeah, he's been
So
pretty great for them so far.
yeah, so that type of impact, if he can continue that, like he's pushing himself into having a Norris Trophy campaign with that type of numbers and that type of dominance early on in the season.
How cool would that
And
be?
very because he's putting up offense, because he's putting up power play goals, and because he's got such a bomb of a shot that everyone is talking about, he's going to get consideration for it versus a more defensive defenseman who might just be having an average year offensively.
Yeah, it'd be pretty neat to have a new guy, new team in contention for Norris because it's usually just that reputation award. It's the Brent
It
Burns,
is
Eric Carlson, Drew Doughty sort of thing. So Hedman,
Hedman.
it'd be really neat to have somebody else in there who's having a great year and actually gets recognized.
Yep.
Yeah, Carolina as a whole has been pretty great to start the season off. I know we mentioned that last
I'm
podcast of
impressed.
them having a lot of
Very impressed.
OT and shootout wins, but that's exciting hockey to watch. And if it works, right? So as long as you get the points, that's all that matters.
Exactly.
The rest of the Metro has been struggling, so it's great for them to take advantage of that and take the top spot for now. I know
Which, surprisingly enough, Pittsburgh's sitting in second right now. I'm kind of surprised at that, considering their lineup strength without the injuries and then factoring in the injuries.
yeah, Malkin, Bukestad,
But
and Galchenyuk are hurt. Crosby's been unreal though.
yeah, so that's I guess that's the trend we've seen throughout both of their careers, that if one of Crosby or Malkin's out, the other just steps it up and has a campaign
Yeah, he's doing Crosby things
every
out
single
there.
time, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. Washington's been struggling. Like today they let in 4 quick ones. Tried to battle back, but ultimately weren't successful. They've managed to let a few of their own leads slip away. Yeah, Islanders can't really get it together so far. The Rangers have played not that many games so far, I don't think. I think they're still at like 3 games played.
Yeah, they played half the games of the teams in front of them, so they're putting up. They would actually be tied with Washington and Pittsburgh had they played the same amount of games.
Yeah, so
So they're actually doing okay. There's nothing really to say about that. Capo Caco had an amazing first goal.
yeah,
That was a very, very slick move around the Oilers' defense and over Mike Smith, and also I believe it was Ryan Strome who had a really nice pass over to him.
mhm,
So shout out to Ryan Strome for that one.
yeah. I did want to mention, I know you wanted to mention it too, Charmelson in Arizona is out for, what was it, 3 months?
3 months with a
At
broken
least
fibula. So
3 months too.
yeah. So that's a rough one to come back from, especially for a guy like him who plays so hard physically and defensively and blocks a lot of shots. That's going to need to be really healed up before he can play
hmm
again.
It's a bad sign for the
Um,
Arizona injury goblins that starting already. It's not
exactly.
great. Uh,
So Swedish defenseman, you're going to have to watch your fibulas because that's two of them now.
hmm Yep. Another thing I wanted to mention was that Markstrom for Vancouver has been granted about a week's leave to handle some personal things. They didn't really go into details,
Yeah,
but
which is understandable.
he's been playing really good. So they've called up what's his name? I can't remember, but they had to call up a goalie to cover his spot. So Demko will probably be starting some games for them this week. So hopefully everything's okay with Markstrom.
Looks like a Zane McIntyre, but
Yeah.
yes, you have to hope everything's okay with Markstrom and that it's not nothing you can't come back from.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. There's been a
You never quite know with these types of things.
yeah, and it's with part of you as a fan always wants to know more, but part of you as a human being can respect his privacy.
You got to respect the
Yeah,
privacy.
if it's something
Remember the
personal,
human, basically.
yeah. I just hope everything's okay with him and his family and everything like that. But one last thing that I wanted to mention before I pass it to you is Patrick Marleau made his return to San Jose and scored.
Is anybody surprised? Because I think that was the only way he was going to play the season, right? Is if he was in San Jose.
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool to have him come back in his first games. Didn't he score 2 or did he score 1?
Yeah, he scored 2, I
Yeah,
think.
so that's pretty cool. He's meant a lot to that team for a long time, and for him to come back,
And he is very close to like the all-time games played
I
record,
think
right?
so. Yeah, I think so. You see,
To the point where he might be able to get it like
and
right
what's
away.
cool is his Iron Man streak it's continued because in the eyes of the NHL, it doesn't get broken if the player's not signed. So as soon as he signed, he
Okay,
played. So it's still active.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he is 108 games shy of the all-time NHL games played
Right. So
record.
he's got to play a couple more seasons.
Yeah, so he'd have to play 2 more years to get the record.
Okay.
But after this year, if he plays every game, he'll be pretty close to third.
Okay. Yeah, Sharks have won 2 in a row now, so it looks like they're coming kind of back from the dead after losing
Yeah, well,
4 out of the gate.
yeah. So the impact of a player like Marleau on the locker room, on the players, you lose Pavelski, and you can probably imagine the impact that would have on the team with the veteran
Hmm.
core. And then you bring a guy like Marleau back,
Yep.
who knows the team, knows the organization, he's familiar with everything, like that presence on the development of the
Hmm.
team.
Yeah. And then I've thought of another one. Last thing that I wanted to mention was Phil Kessel played in his 1,000th game this week. So that's impressive. Stanley Cup champion,
Very
Phil
congrats to Phil.
Kessel, part of the 1K,
Two-time Stanley Cup
part of the
champion.
1K club. So that's pretty cool.
Steve Simmons is rolling around very, very agitatedly right
Yeah,
now.
that damn hot dog eating
He's
scrub.
he's in his sleep, just like muttering hot dogs.
Yeah, so congrats to him. That's pretty impressive to have that type of career.
The longevity he's had too, because he's still a really effective
Yeah,
player.
he's still a great player.
And a lot of times you see those types of snipers. He's sort of a one-dimensional-ish sniper, and I don't typically have the type of longevity that he
Hmm.
is. He's still the last 2 years he's put up well over. He's put up a point per game the last 2 years. He's still scoring 20, 30
Yeah, we
goals a
talk
year.
about Marlowe's Iron Man. Phil Kessel's got his own Iron Man. I think he's played in like over 750 games in a row or something like that. So
Yeah, he doesn't appear to have missed a game since 2009, 2010.
it's very impressive.
Looking at 82 games a year, and then the lockout was 48
Hmm.
games. So he's got every single game.
Very impressive. Especially being a smaller type forward guy. I know he doesn't play a rough game, but the league is it's not easy on guys. So to stay in the
No,
lineup for
no.
that many games in a row is impressive. I know at times he should have probably come out of the lineup, but it's still impressive. Yeah.
Very.
That's everything that I kind of had on my list. Sean, is there anything else that you wanted to go over?
We covered everything. Yeah, we are. That is week 2 of the NHL. That's all the big stuff going on. The hot starts and turnarounds, and holy crap, how are they doing that bad of the season so far?
Yeah, that's the new segment of the show. The holy craps. How are they doing that bad? Okay, well, I guess that's pretty much it then. Don't forget to like our socials. So we have Instagram that we're active on. Please like that, follow us. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, and as always, you can find all of our content on our website, clappercast.com. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.